My name is Yurie Tanimichi Hoberg. I'm in the agriculture department at the World Bank, and I'd like to thank the IFPRI team for giving me the opportunity to provide some of my thoughts to this very interesting presentation. I work in the agriculture department of the World Bank, and we're working a lot now on what we call nutrition-sensitive agriculture. It's sort of a new thing for us at the World Bank to be working on. And so I think my comments are going to be more from sort of an operational perspective. First of all, I have mainly three observations. First of all, I thought that this kind of work is extremely useful and very welcome for us, because in the World Bank, when we try to talk about nutrition-sensitive agriculture, the first sort of wall we hit is we're being asked, why agriculture? Why don't you just do nutrition through health? Where's the evidence? And with my colleagues in the nutrition field, I have been looking for evidence, and I think most of you are familiar with the 2012 review by Eduardo Macedo. I think it's sort of well regarded as one of the most extensive reviews, but I mean, in that particular systematic review, there were 300 journal articles reviewed, which looked at the nutrition impact of agriculture activities. And I think at the first cut, only 23 made it as having enough internal validity or sort of high enough standards in econometrics, I guess. So really the evidence is quite weak, and that sort of adds an additional burden on us to be able to go out to our managers and our country directors and saying that this is important. So this is tremendously welcome, and I'm very excited to see this more advanced draft. My second point was I particularly, and I'll caveat by saying, unfortunately, I got Alan's paper way ahead of Dan's, so my comments may be more sort of biased towards Alan's, but the results that came out in his paper, I found them extremely surprising. The first one, that the more prolonged, extensive intervention that one would expect would be more valuable. Actually, he showed that there was no significant difference with the cheaper intervention. But the more surprising one to me was on the nutrition messaging. I've been hearing from my nutrition colleagues that one of the things that we lack in agricultural operations is to have this sort of nutrition behavioral changing education messaging. So to see Alan's paper talk about, and maybe I'm not sort of talking about the nuance as well, but to hear this general message that not all nutrition messaging implies higher adoption was quite frankly very surprising to me. And to have this kind of rigorous evaluation behind that kind of surprising result, I found very welcome. So then, I guess after reading that part, I was sort of struck with, well, then why do people adopt? I guess Dan looked into why do people adopt from their neighbors, but in Alan's version, why do people adopt from NGOs or whomever it is that's distributing the vines if it's not because they believe these vitamin A messages? Were they sort of was it the reputation of these NGOs that came that, hey, if this NGO is giving away free things, it must be good? Or was it because it's free? Or were they sold more on their agroeconomic characteristics? Were they sort of presented as high yield varieties? Although then I did notice Dan saying that their costs could be high during the dry season. So that was really sort of what I have sort of as a question in my mind, and I'd like to hear from Howdy and team on that to try to get a better understanding in my mind. Sort of as a aside, I also thought, could these nutrition messages on vitamin A, did it yield other sort of unexpected results? Did people hear these messages and just go out to buy vitamin A capsules, or did they eat more fish, and was that kind of thing? Could you have looked at that through your survey work, because you did do these recall surveys? So maybe it resulted in something else. That was just sort of an aside that I had. I did also notice that, so I got the message that actually agriculture extension could play a really big role in this, perhaps not so much the nutrition messaging. And on that, I noticed in the paper that the two countries took different models. In Mozambique, there were pairs going around, an ag extension worker and a nutrition extension worker. And in Uganda, it was one person who sort of had two sets of knowledges. And I would be curious, perhaps later on, to know what the implications were, because those are the things that I think we would like to incorporate in our project designs at the bank. And finally, it sort of struck me, and especially kind of listening to Dan's work, I mean, the sweet potato is a pretty unique crop, I think, because people freely give away vines. And because people freely give away vines, I imagine that it's not a particular crop where private seed companies would develop. And that's sweet potatoes. But as there are other crops that Harvest Plus works with, and I wonder how it works with other sort of more standard crops where you would expect a private seed company to develop and a market to develop. So in that sense, I'm not that surprised that the marketing component for sweet potatoes didn't really work, which I think Alan had said some other papers covered. But what about for the other crops where you have to keep on buying hybrid seeds? Does marketing become more important? And in that kind of scenario, then there are sort of other questions that come up, because now marketing does become important. Then one question that comes to my mind is now, can we assure that if this has such high marketability, that people would not start selling these crops to the market as opposed to consuming them themselves? And these other things sort of come up if they become viable commercial crops, which I guess was not the case with the sweet potato. But I think I'll end there. And again, I very much enjoyed both papers, and thank you very much for the opportunity.